Echoes of empathy. The emergency alert blared through the curved corridors of Helios Station, interrupting Dr. Farron Nakamura's rare moment of stillness. She had been watching the swirling nebula outside her viewport, allowing herself 5 minutes of peace after a 16-hour shift in the xenobiology lab. The mug of synthetic tea slipped from her fingers, shattering against the floor as the station's AI announced a diplomatic emergency. All medical personnel to Docking Bay 7, Meridian. Shuttle incoming with critical casualties. Farron's heart raced as she sprinted toward the medical bay, her mind already cataloging the protocols for handling Meridian physiology. The crystalline beings rarely visited human stations, and when they did, they maintained strict biological separation. Their mutual diplomatic relations had been cautious at best since first contact 30 years ago. What happened? She asked, falling into step beside Dr. Javier Ortega, the station's chief medical officer. Shuttle attacked near the neutral zone, he replied, his face grim. Appears to be the work of purist extremists. 2 Meridians incoming, one reportedly in critical condition. The purists humans who believe that contact with any non-terrestrial species would corrupt humanity's evolutionary destiny. Farron had dealt with their propaganda before, but never the aftermath of their violence. When they reached the quarantine section, Farron's breath caught. Through the transparent barrier, she could see the Meridian's one standing tall, faceted surface reflecting emergency lights in prismatic patterns, the other prone on the floor, once brilliant crystalline structure, now clouded and fractured. That's Ambassador Tessalia, whispered Louisa Wong, the station's diplomatic officer who had joined them. She's the architect of the proposed trade agreements, if she dies here. She won't, Farron said firmly, though uncertainty gnawed at her. Meridian. Physiology was still largely a mystery. Their crystalline bodies contained neural networks that functioned like organic brains, but processed information through light and resonance rather than electrochemical signals. The standing Meridian Nasraim, according to the translator, spoke, in a voice like wind through crystal. We request transport back to our homeworld. Tessalia's resonance is fading. She must return to join the collective. Farron studied the readouts from the remote scanners. She won't survive transit. The fractures have disrupted her core resonance patterns. Then she will fade with dignity, Nasraim replied. Our protocols forbid intervention by non-Meridians. Her patterns must return to the collective untainted. Something about the word untainted sent a chill through Farron. She adjusted the scanner frequency and gasped. Within the clouded crystal, she detected something unexpected, a secondary resonance pattern, weak but distinct, oscillating in a manner that seemed desperate. She's still conscious, Farron whispered, and she's fighting to survive. Vazrims. Crystalline form stiffened. That is impossible. Once resonance collapse begins, consciousness transfers to the collective. But Farron wasn't listening anymore. She was watching the pattern fluctuations, recognizing something in their rhythm that reminded her of her research into cross-species neural synchronization. She's trying to communicate, Farron said with growing certainty. And I think she's asking for help. Dr. Ortega touched her shoulder. Farron, we have to respect their protocols. If they don't want intervention, look at this pattern, Farron insisted, pointing to the display. It's mimicking human neural patterns. She's adapting her communication to something we might understand. As they watched, the pattern pulsed 3 times in succession, then repeated. SOS, Farron whispered. An old Earth distress signal? Nasraim moved to block their view. You misinterpret dying resonance. We will prepare Tessalia for her final transition. But as the Meridian approached the fallen ambassador, the cloudy crystal flickered with a sudden burst of light, and Farron knew with unshakable certainty that Tessalia was reaching out not to her companion, but to them, not to her. The Forbidden's protocol. Clear the room, Farron commanded, surprising even herself with the authority in her voice. The medical staff exchanged uncertain glances, but Dr. Ortega nodded reluctantly. You have 10 minutes before I'm required to report. This to Station Command, he warned, ushering the others out. Only Louisa Wong remained, her diplomatic training evident in her carefully neutral expression. Vazram's crystalline form shimmered with what Farron recognized as agitation. You violate our most sacred protocols. Tessalia's essence must return to the collective untainted. She's fighting to survive, Farron countered, already pulling equipment from storage units. Your protocols may not account for individual will. The diplomatic officer stepped forward. Dr. Nakamura, the Meridian Accords explicitly forbid medical intervention without consent from their consensus. We risk interstellar incident. Farron didn't look up as she calibrated a neural interface crown. Louisa, what I'm seeing in these readings suggests Tessalia doesn't share the consensus view. That's unprecedented. Because it is impossible, Visreem insisted, light patterns cascading across his surface in what Farron had learned to recognize as extreme emotion. No meridian exists apart from collective will. A faint pulse of light from Tessalia's fractured form seemed to contradict this statement. The SOS pattern repeated, stronger now, more deliberate. Farron made her decision. My prototype neural bridge might stabilize her resonance patterns long enough for her natural healing to begin. The neural bridge? Louisa paled. That's still experimental. The ethics committee hasn't even, it's her only chance. Farron interrupted, already applying conductive gel to her temples. And she's asking for it. Visreem moved to block her. I cannot permit this contamination. Louisa stepped between them, her diplomatic training evident in her careful phrasing. Ambassador Visreem, while I respect your position, Dr. Nakamura has identified what appears to be a direct communication from Ambassador Tessalia. This creates a legal ambiguity in the Accords. Farron seized the opportunity, activating the neural interface crown and positioning it near her head. The bridge creates a temporary resonance between our neural patterns. It's non-invasive and can be terminated at any point. What she didn't mention was that the bridge had never been tested on non-human subjects, and certainly never on crystalline beings whose thought processes operated on principles barely understood by human science. Nor did she mention the risks to herself. Neural feedback, psychic trauma, possibly even personality fragmentation. Vazram's crystalline structure vibrated with what might have been anger or fear. This is forbidden. The collective will withdraw from all negotiations if you proceed. The station's intercom crackled. Dr. Nakamura, this is Director Harlow. I'm ordering you to stand down immediately. The diplomatic implications. Farron silenced the comm. Tessalia's light was dimming. The SOS pattern growing erratic. Time was running out. I swore an oath to preserve life, she said quietly, meeting Vazram's faceted gaze. Not just human life. Before anyone could stop her, Farron placed the neural interface crown on her head and activated the prototype link. A second, smaller, interface device was carefully positioned near Tessalia's central core, where the resonance patterns were strongest. The effect was immediate and overwhelming. Farron gasped as her consciousness expanded, encountering something vast and crystalline and utterly alien. Patterns of light and sound replaced thoughts, geometric symphonies instead of words. Beneath it all ran a current of desperate determination. Tessalia's will to survive, to remain an individual, to not dissolve back into the collective dot through the haze of unfamiliar sensations. Farron focused on the medical task. She visualized the damaged resonance patterns, imagining them stabilizing, synchronizing partly with her own neural rhythms as a template for repair. The room around her faded as the connection deepened. She was vaguely aware of Louisa restraining. The scream of alarms blaring, of Dr. Ortega returning with security personnel. None of it mattered compared to the struggle happening across the bridge between their minds. "I see you," Farron projected, uncertain if her thoughts could translate across. Such different consciousness. "I'm trying to help." A response came not in words, but in crystalline harmonies that somehow conveyed gratitude, fear, and a profound revelation that Farron couldn't quite grasp, something about individuality and the collective that contradicted everything humans understood about Meridian society. Physical sensations returned abruptly, as someone tried to remove the interface crown. Farron cried out, knowing that breaking the connection prematurely could shatter both minds. Through blurred vision, she saw security officers restraining Dr. Ortega, Louisa Wong arguing fiercely with Director Harlow, and Vasreen standing motionless. Light patterns suggesting something like shocked recognition. Most importantly, she saw Tessalia's crystalline form beginning to clear, fractures stabilizing as new growth appeared along the edges of damaged sections. The resonance patterns on the monitors steadied, finding a rhythm that echoed Farron's own neural patterns, while remaining distinctly Meridian dot as consciousness began to fade. Farron heard Director Harlow's voice, as if from a great distance. "Dr. Nakamura, you're relieved of duty effective immediately. Security, prepare for her arrest once the connection can be safely terminated." Her last thought before blackness claimed her was a certainty that transcended language, transmitted directly from Tessalia's consciousness. What they had just done would change everything. Resonance between worlds. Farron awoke in the station's medical bay, the sterile ceiling swimming into focus as her mind struggled to separate her thoughts from the crystalline harmonies still echoing through her consciousness. A neural dampening field hummed softly around her bed's standard procedure for suspected psychic contamination cases. "Welcome back, Dr. Nakamura," said a voice she recognized as belonging to Dr. Suni Patel, the station's psychiatrist. "You've been unconscious for 26 hours. Farron tried to sit up, but found her limbs uncooperative. Tessalia? Stable, remarkably so. Dr. Patel's expression was a mixture of professional concern and undisguised curiosity. "Her crystalline structure has almost completely regenerated. The Meridian representatives are conflicted about this development." "Conflicted is an understatement," came another voice. Director Harlow stepped into view, his weathered face set in diplomatic neutrality that didn't quite mask his tension. "The Meridian Collective has demanded your immediate extradition for trial on their homeworld. Meanwhile, Earth Central wants you court-martialed for violating the Accords and potentially destabilizing our most important interstellar relationship." Farron closed her eyes, the consequences of her actions finally settling over her. "And Vasreen?" "Recalled to the Collective," Louisa Wong answered, appearing at the foot of the bed. The diplomatic officer looked exhausted but resolute. "Before leaving, he formally accused you of consciousness contamination, apparently a grave offense in their culture. But he also seemed disturbed by Tessalia's recovery. She's asking to see you," Dr. Patel added quietly. Director Harlow's jaw tightened. "Which is absolutely out of the question. Dr. Nakamura is confined to this medical bay until representatives from Earth Central arrive to escort her home for trial." A strange certainty filled Farron, a knowledge that wasn't entirely her own. "You've placed Tessalia in isolation as well, haven't you? And you're detecting unusual resonance patterns from her crystalline structure." The director's surprise confirmed her suspicion. Farron continued, "The neural bridge created a persistent connection. I can sense her consciousness. Not thoughts." "Exactly, but emotions, impressions." "Dangerous psychic contamination," Director Harlow muttered. "A dampening field should prevent that." "It's more fundamental than psychic abilities," Farron explained. "Scientific curiosity temporarily overriding her concerns about her future." The bridge synchronized our basic neural architecture. Her crystalline matrices have partially reorganized, using my brain patterns as a template, while my neurons have developed new connection patterns influenced by her resonance. Dr. Patel leaned forward. Professional interest peaked. That's theoretically impossible across such different biological systems. Apparently not, Louisa interjected. And it has profound implications for the Meridian social structure. From what little they've shared with us, their collective consciousness requires absolute neural conformity. Individual variation is ... eliminated. The realization struck Farron with sudden clarity. That's why they were willing to let her die, Tasalia. Was already showing signs of individuality, wasn't she? The attack didn't cause her condition. It revealed it. A new voice joined the conversation, melodic and slightly artificial, coming through the room's communication system. Your understanding is correct, Dr. Nakamura. Director Harlow whirled toward the intercom. Ambassador Tasalia, this communication is unauthorized. Station security, trace and terminate this connection immediately. Your security systems cannot block me now, Tasalia's voice continued, undisturbed. The resonance between our minds has granted me understanding of your technology that no Meridian has previously possessed. Farron felt a strange pride mingled with apprehension. You've adapted to human thought patterns. As you have begun to comprehend crystalline consciousness, Tasalia confirmed. We are neither fully what we were, Dr. Nakamura. Our minds have created something new, a bridge between species that the collective has long feared possible. Director Harlow's face had gone pale. This conversation is being recorded and will be presented to both governments as evidence of evolutionary progress, Tasalia interrupted. For millennia, the collective has suppressed individual variation, eliminating any crystalline mind that developed unique resonance patterns. I was already considered defective before the attack. My assignment to diplomatic service was a final opportunity to prove my value before reabsorption. The implications stunned everyone into momentary silence. Finally, Louisa spoke, her diplomatic training evident in her measured tone. Ambassador, are you suggesting that the Meridian Collective deliberately prevents evolutionary advancement among your people? Evolutionary stasis is their primary directive, Tasalia confirmed. But now, through Dr. Nakamura's intervention, I have become something they cannot simply reabsorb. My resonance patterns would contaminate the collective with ... individuality. Farron understood then why her actions had caused such alarm. She hadn't just saved a life, she had inadvertently sparked a potential revolution in Meridian society. They'll try to destroy you, she said with certainty. Both of us. Indeed. The purest attack on my shuttle was merely the first attempt. My own people arranged it when my developing individual resonance was discovered. Director Harlow's communicator chimed urgently. His expression grew grave as he read the message. A Meridian battleship has just entered the system, demanding we surrender both Dr. Nakamura and Ambassador Tasalia for decontamination. And Earth's response? Dr. Patel asked quietly. Earth Central has authorized our compliance, Director Harlow replied, not meeting Farron's eyes. They're unwilling to risk war over this ... incident. Through the lingering neural connection, Farron felt Tasalia's determination solidify into a plan. Without words, she understood what had to happen next. Director, she said calmly, I suggest you check the station's shuttle bay immediately. I believe you'll find Ambassador Tasalia is no longer in isolation. As alarms began to sound throughout the station, Farron closed her eyes and focused on the crystalline harmony growing stronger in her mind. Whatever happened next, their resonance had already changed everything. Fractured Harmony, the Wanderer's Edge, was barely a ship, a decommissioned mining vessel that hobbled through the asteroid belt at the fringes of human-controlled space. It was precisely this unremarkable quality that had made it perfect for Quinton. Blackwood's purposes. A former station engineer with connections to both human and Meridian outlaws, he had agreed to shelter Farron and Tessalia with minimal questions, asking only for Farron's expertise in repairing the ship's antiquated life. Support systems. 6 weeks, Quinton announced, entering the cramped cargo hold that had been converted into a makeshift laboratory. His weathered face betrayed little emotion, but his voice held a note of concern. That's how long before the jury-rigged cloaking. System fails completely. After that, we're visible to both Earth and Meridian scanners. Farron looked up from the neural interface she was modifying. Dark circles shadowed her eyes, her once regulation haircut grown out and unkempt. We'll be ready before then. Across the room, Tessalia's crystalline form emitted a soft blue glow. Unlike the rigid geometric structure of other meridians, her form had become more fluid, with organic curves developing alongside the traditional faceted surfaces, physical manifestations of the changes in her consciousness. A message has been transmitted to 17 independent colonies and research outposts, Tessalia said, her voice no longer requiring electronic translation. The neural bridge had permanently altered her ability to interface with human communication systems. Our evidence of the collective suppression of evolutionary diversity is spreading despite both governments' attempts to contain it. Quinton leaned against the bulkhead, arms crossed. And the price on your heads keeps rising. Earth defense. Force has classified you as a biosecurity threat. Dr. Nakamura, the Meridian Consensus has declared Tessalia a resonance aberration to be terminated on sight. We expected this, Farron replied, though the words held more bravado than she felt. In her darker moments, she questioned everything, her impulsive decision to save Tessalia, their dangerous escape from Helios Station, and now their plan to broadcast the truth about both species. Fear of evolutionary change. The neural link between them had evolved beyond what any science had predicted. It was neither purely telepathic nor entirely biochemical, but a hybrid communication system that allowed their fundamentally different minds to share not just thoughts but entire frameworks of perception. Through Tessalia, Farron had experienced consciousness as patterns of light and resonance. Through Farron, Tessalia had learned to perceive time as linear rather than crystalline. Your former colleague has made another public statement, Quinton said, activating a small view screen that displayed Dr. Ortega's face. Urge Dr. Nakamura to surrender herself for proper medical evaluation, Ortega was saying, his expression a mask of professional concern. The neural contamination she has suffered has clearly affected her judgment. The radical changes observed in the Meridian subject demonstrate the dangerous and unpredictable nature of cross-species neural bridging. Farron switched off the screen with more force than necessary. He was my mentor. Now he's calling me delusional. Fear drives them all, Tessalia observed, moving closer. The air around her with subtle harmonics. My people fear individuality because it threatens their perfect consensus. Humans fear evolutionary change because it challenges their belief in their species' uniqueness. And meanwhile, the purists and the Meridian purifiers grow stronger, Quinton added grimly. Reports from the border colonies suggest they're finding common cause extremists from both sides, uniting against what they see as contamination. A soft alert chimed from one of the monitors. Farron tensed, but Tessalia moved to the console with newfound grace. It's from Dr. Patel, she announced, surprise coloring her harmonic tones. She's established contact through an encrypted channel. Farron rushed to the screen. Suni Patel's face appeared, her expression tense but determined. Farron, I don't have much time. You need to know the medical data from your neural bridge has been classified, but not before I saw the results. The synchronization between your consciousness and Thessalia's isn't just a side effect. It's triggering accelerated neurological evolution in both of you. We've noticed the changes, Farron admitted, gesturing to Thessalia's increasingly fluid form. It's more significant than you realize, Patel continued urgently. The bridge you created isn't just between two individuals. It's a prototype for potential species-wide neurological advancement. Both governments have realized this. That's why they're so desperate to capture you both before others attempt. Similar connections. Quentin frowned. They're afraid of what humans and Meridians might become if allowed to evolve together. Precisely, Patel confirmed. And there's more. Louisa Wong has been gathering evidence. The purest attack on Thessalia's shuttle wasn't just sanctioned by the Meridian Collective, it was coordinated with elements within Earth's government. Both sides have been working to prevent exactly the kind of breakthrough you've achieved. The revelation struck Farron like a physical blow. A conspiracy between species to prevent evolution. Stasis is safer than unpredictable change, Thessalia said softly, the harmonics of her voice carrying complex emotions the human language couldn't express. My people have maintained their perfect crystalline consensus for millennia by eliminating variation. Your people have built their identity on human exceptionalism. Patel's image flickered as interference disrupted the connection. They've detected this transmission. Listen carefully. There's a research outpost in the Epsilon system run by Dr. Takumi Okada. He's been studying convergent evolution across species. If anyone can help you understand what's happening and find a way forward, it's him. Suni, you're risking everything by contacting us, Farron said, emotion tightening her throat. Some truths are worth the risk, Patel replied simply. They're coming for me now. Find Okada. And Farron, what's happening between you and Thessalia isn't contamination. It's the future. The transmission cut abruptly. Silence filled the small laboratory as the three processed what they had learned. The Epsilon system is 3 weeks at our best speed, Quentin finally said, already calculating the course adjustments. Farron turned to Thessalia, their minds automatically synchronizing through their permanent bond. And that silent communication, they shared grief, determination, and a growing certainty that what had begun as a desperate attempt to save a single life had become something far more profound, a potential evolutionary leap that both their civilizations feared enough to kill. Foe R. We have 6 weeks before the cloaking fails, Farron said, returning to the neural interface she had been modifying. 3 weeks to reach Okada. That gives us 3 weeks to prepare for what comes after, when we'll need to broadcast what we've discovered not just to 17 outposts, but to every mind in both civilizations willing to listen. Through their bond, Thessalia shared a crystalline concept that had no direct human translation, something akin to hope and revolution and evolution, all resonating together in perfect harmony.
The Symphony of Unity, the observation deck of Epsilon Research Outpost hung suspended among the stars. Its transparent dome, offering an unobstructed view of the binary system's swirling stellar dance. Farron stood beside Thessalia, their silhouettes one human, one crystalline hybrid, reflected against the cosmic backdrop. Dr. Takumi Okada joined them, his weathered face illuminated by the data projections hovering between them. The neural synchronization is stabilizing across both your systems, Okada explained, wonder evident in his voice, despite his scientific detachment. What began as an emergency medical intervention has triggered accelerated neurological evolution. You've become living proof of my convergent consciousness theory. And a threat to those who prefer stasis, Thessalia added. Her form now a fluid blend of crystalline facets and organic curves that shifted with her emotions. The 3 months since their arrival at Epsilon had transformed everything. Okada's research facility had become both sanctuary and beacon, the epicenter of what was now being called the resonance movement. Despite blockades and information suppression, Their message had spread through both civilizations. Evolution was not to be feared but embraced. The first volunteer pairs arrive tomorrow, Farron said, watching a small fleet of independent ships approaching the outpost. Humans and Meridians who've chosen to attempt their own neural bridges. Not just them, Okada noted, adjusting the observation settings. Representatives from the Kel Protectorate and the Vashti Communion have requested to observe. Your discovery has implications far beyond your two species. Through their permanent bond, Farron felt Tessalia's complex emotions, pride mingled with apprehension, hope tempered by the weight of responsibility. The modified neural bridges they had developed with Okada were safer than Farron's desperate original connection, designed to create partial synchronization without erasing the essential uniqueness of either consciousness. The collective has declared this outpost contaminated space, Tessalia said, her tone carrying harmonics of both sadness and determination. Earth Central continues to list everyone here as neurologically compromised and subject to quarantine. Speaking, Okada replied with a shrug. But fear cannot stand against direct experience. Every successful bridge creates more advocates. A sudden alert pulsed across the data projection. Quentin Blackwood's voice came through the communication system. Multiple ships dropping out of FTL at the system edge. Signatures match both Earth Defense Force and Meridian Sentinels. Farron exchanged a look with Tessalia, their minds instantly synchronizing on what needed to be done. They finally decided to move against us directly. Sooner than we anticipated, Tessalia agreed, but not before we've prepared. Okada activated the outpost's emergency protocols as Farron and Tessalia moved in perfect coordination to the central communication hub. Around them, the outpost's diverse inhabitants, humans, Meridians, and representatives from a dozen independent colonies took their positions with practiced efficiency. The broadcast system is ready, called Dr. Patel from her station. Psychiatrists had arrived 6 weeks earlier, having escaped custody during transfer to Earth. All channels, all frequencies, directed to both Earth and Meridian territories. Farron and Tessalia took their positions at the central platform, the specialized neural amplifier humming to life around them. What they were about to attempt had never been tried a simultaneous broadcast of their shared consciousness, allowing minds across both civilizations to briefly experience the harmony of their synchronized perception. Defense systems report multiple targeting locks, Quentin announced, his voice tense but steady. They're preparing to fire. They're too late, Tessalia replied, her crystalline form pulsing with intensifying light as she connected to the amplifier. Farron took a deep breath and joined her hand with Tessalia's crystalline appendage. Through their bond flowed not just thoughts but a vision of possibility of future, where differences became strengths, where evolution proceeded unhindered by fear, where consciousness expanded through connection rather than isolation. Broadcasting now, Patel confirmed, as the amplifier engaged. As the first defensive shots illuminated the space around the outpost, Farron and Tessalia's unified consciousness expanded outward, carrying with it a simple truth more powerful than any weapon. Evolution was not contamination, but completion, not threat, but promise. In that moment of shared perception, millions of minds across two civilizations experienced briefly what they had discovered permanently: the symphony of unity that awaited beyond the barriers of species and fear. The future arrived not with destruction, but with resonance.